Welcome to School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time. Got a really special guest for us today, coming to us all the way from Clinton, Indiana. Andrew, say hello to everybody at School's Out 80s.
Well, hey, from the metropolis of Clinton, Indiana, all 5,000 folks. How you doing, everybody? Andrew Poletto here.
Awesome, Andrew. Man, so happy to have you on with us on School's Out 80s. It was a blast being on your podcast earlier in the month, and it just made sense. I'm like, I got 5 or 6 people lined up, and I'm like, no, I'm going to see if Andrew wants to do it.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we had a ball on our podcast, on my podcast, and we found out that we're quite similar in age and similar in different aspects of growing up as well. That's pretty funny.
Absolutely, and I'll just kind of share with people like what you do,
Okay.
but Andrew helps people later in life, specifically with, education around how to eat and exercise. That's his specialty for us folks out there 50 and older. But we'll get to that later on. This is all about the funny.
Yes.
So, Andrew, when you think about your high school, and you shared with me your high school's literally right in the town you're living in right now,
Yes.
which is Clinton, Indiana. And you went to South Vermilion High School, I believe, home of the Wildcats. Is that correct?
The Wildcats, absolutely. Yeah, this is that was I don't want to say it was a new school at the time, but the school opened up in 1977, 1978, and I was one of the first classes that went all through the middle school that we had at the time, and then also the high school. So
Nice.
I don't know how many classes ahead of me, but I was one of the first ones that did all of it like that.
Okay. And did you play football in high school?
I did not. I was a scrawny little runt in high school.
Okay.
Even though I look a little beefier now. And but no, I ran cross country and I played baseball in high school. And I was in the band, so you can't throw that one out.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so while you were in the band, what instrument were you playing?
I was trombone all the way. I started trombone. I played it for 16 years, and then I put it down. I haven't picked it up since.
Okay, all right, all good.
And into college for a couple of years as well. Yeah.
Trombone. That is
trombone is different. It's a different instrument. That's for certain.
So, did you walk to school or did you bus to school?
In grade school, my sister and I walked to school. We lived about a half mile away. But in high school, I used I rode the bus. And
okay, no worries.
I started driving. I remember one time, the bus stop was about a block from my house.
Okay.
And I used to go there, and if one of my buddies who was on cross country team with me, if he would pass by, saw me at the bus stop, he would stop and pick me up before the bus did.
Sweet.
One day it was freezing cold out. I mean, it was below zero. Everybody was shivering. I was the only one at the bus stop. The bus just passed by. It didn't stop. I'm looking.
Oh man,
what's going on? So, my dad went to work. My mom didn't drive. So going home wasn't going to help. So I started walking to school, which is about 2 miles away. So I got to school and thank goodness my buddy was running late too. He sees me, says, "What are you doing walking?" And I said, "The bus didn't stop." So nowadays that happens. The bus driver gets on the evening news and child abuse, child neglect. At that point, they said, "Too bad. Your high school kid walk." So yeah. Bus driver didn't get in trouble. I was the one who's going to get in trouble if I was late.
So sure. There you go. You got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
So when you're in band and you got a trombone and you're taking the bus, did you find that kind of cumbersome, like that big instrument all the time?
Oh man, it was a heck. You did not want to do it because back then the buses were full, especially when you're a freshman, sophomore. The buses are full, and especially if you have some seniors on there. Most seniors drove, but as we all know, the seniors who don't drive are on the bus. They like to rule the bus, and you come on with a trombone or something, it's gonna get knocked and hit, and you're basically defenseless because you're a little freshman.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
these big bully seniors. I call them. We say bully now, but when we were growing up, there was no such thing as bully. Even though every school had them, we just wasn't termed as bully.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I kind of had the same thing, not in high school, but in middle school. So for whatever reason in middle school, I decided that I was going to play the baritone.
Even bigger.
Yeah. Well, it's because I've been the tallest in my class for since third grade. And so my buddy Matt and I, it had to be a big person. They wouldn't let the little guys do the baritones or the tubas. And so I did the baritone. My buddy Matt did the baritone. But here's what's kind of a little funny about it. This was in middle school, so pre-high school. In the 80s, here's what's funny about it. At that time in our life, we weren't completely mentally developed. And what we try to do is as little as possible and not get kicked out of the band. So what do I mean by that? Well, we used to play the opening to the Dallas series, with JR and all that. And it goes like dun, 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 dun. And so what we did, because neither of us practiced, because we also were basketball players, and we just didn't practice our instrument. Again, we did as little as possible. We would hum our part into the thing, and the teacher finally realized that we weren't playing. Oh, he was mad. He was so mad. He would get all red-faced when he got mad. The other thing we used to do when we were in band is we would turn around on the risers, because you played your instrument on the risers with everybody else that was in the band. Like the drummer was on the floor, and then everybody else was set up like a small little orchestra. And it was horrific. Nobody could play their instrument. It was a matter of noise. But back in the day when we thought spit was cool.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Okay. So everybody would take their turns creating this great big spit blob behind the risers. Even the girls were doing it.
See, we didn't do that at all. You guys were mean. We were
kind of
afraid of my father and everything else. He was.
No, but we want to get back to the Wildcats with you. Okay, so back in the day, you're playing baseball at your school there in Clinton.
Yep.
So any funny stories maybe that you have that occurred whenever while you're in high school?
Yeah.
Vermilion High. Yeah.
You mentioned the band. I got this. I don't want to call it a funny band story, but something happened because if you ever been in the band in high school, the home games, the local high school band usually plays at all the home games.
Right.
So about now, but back then, I mean, that was a huge deal, especially in Indiana. I mean, your home games were rocking around here. I mean, it was packed.
Oh, I bet.
And everything else. My senior year, a buddy of mine and I said, we got to try something different. We don't want to be the seniors playing in the band. We got to do something different during the game to make sure that people can remember who we are.
Sure.
So, and at that time, and I'm sure you did it, every boy that I knew had a poster of some female swimsuit thing in their room. All right. Some girl, usually the Farrah Fawcett poster, the iconic Farrah Fawcett poster, but there were other ones. So my buddy and I, we each took one of our posters, and no one knew it, but we had it rolled up and under our shirts and everything else. And during the game, like the last couple of minutes of the half or the quarter, whatever, we put our instruments down and ran right behind the free throw for the opposing team. And when the guy started to shoot the free throws, everybody would be waving and yelling at him. We would unroll the posters and hold them up right in front to where he'd have to see. And I don't know if that was a thing that other folks did that time, because of course we didn't have videos and no one can do it. But then I later on in life, when I went to college, and some of my college friends were telling me that everybody did that. Like, wait, we were the ones that did it at our school. No one else ever did that. And for
Interesting.
the next couple of weeks, people were talking about it, and they couldn't believe we actually did that. And
Huh.
of course, the band director didn't like the fact that we left the band. The first and second chair and the trombones left the band to go do this, and the important part of the game. And like, well, it's part of it. So
Interesting. So you took out these posters. One of them was Farrah Fawcett. Were they all Farrah Fawcett?
Honestly, I don't remember. I just know it was a very attractive young lady in a very skimpy outfit. So that's all I remember.
Red. It's a red bathing suit.
Yeah.
And I could, I must have looked at it a lot as a child, because as I sit there and think about it, I can almost see it verbatim.
Oh yeah. That one. Yeah. Being a young red-blooded American boy, I had several of those posters around the room, and we'll just leave it at that.
So like, were you just, so this was at the football game?
No, it's at the basketball game.
It was at the basketball game.
Yeah, when the opposing team was throwing the free throw. Yeah. Right.
Oh, you were holding it up to distract him.
Yes. We were at the basketball game. Yeah.
Okay.
We had bleachers.
Okay. I got a great story to parallel right on your story.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, this started, I think, even before my brother went to my high school. We went to Bishop LeBlond Catholic High School, and we were hooligans. Good grades, bad attitude. And what we would do during the home game is they had all the student body that wanted to on the stage in the auditorium. Okay. So this is the stage where we do all our plays, and then the basketball is just right there. So they would open up the curtain, and the opponent would see all the student body, and we were back there doing chants and being rude. Like a guy would get the ball and we'd be like, miss it. It was bad. Mm-hmm. But when it really got bad, and when they stopped letting us sit on the stage in the student section, was when somebody brought a packet of hot dogs. The guy was trying to make a free throw from the opposing team, and he looks, and there's several little hot dog bits next to his tennis shoes.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that awesome? Oh my gosh.
It's something, I don't know why I just thought of this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't part of the swim team.
Okay.
And if the boys swim team, and if anybody knows the boys swim team and the boys cross country team, especially in colleges, are probably the most notorious for being, lack of a better term, ornery. All right, they're the worst. Sure. Well, in high school, I had a lot of buddies on the swim team. I was my sophomore year. All my friends were seniors. Don't ask me why or how, but most of them were. And so I used to hang out with these guys. The group of seniors,
right?
And I don't remember if it was the principal or vice principal or what, but around Christmas time, people put up different ornaments or different figurines in front of their house and stuff, like the old plastic Santa Clauses and reindeers, and where you plug a light bulb in and it lights up at night, one of those kind of things. The guys in the swim team, and I wasn't with them when they did this, and it's not because I'm on air now, because I wasn't, but from either the principal or the vice principal's house, they stole a big Santa Claus out of the front of the house.
No!
Brought it to the pool, the pool, and in the office on display there, they put up the Santa Claus and put swim caps on it and the goggles and some fins where the feet were, flippers, whatever call them, flipper. No one knew where it ever came from. The principal never knew. No one else besides the people on the team knew it.
Okay.
I'm sure teachers knew, because back then we didn't think anybody knew, but now we all know that everybody knew. And then after the swim season is over, January, February, they went and put it back in the guy's house and plugged it back in his front yard.
Man, that's like Animal House stuff. So did you say that was the principal?
I don't remember if it was the principal, vice principal. It was somebody up there in the school system. Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Man, we all used to do that kind of stuff too. Take the signs down. And, when I was a kid in my basement, and it started with my brother, but we had and people don't do this, but we had several stop signs that were in our basement. Yield signs, like all these signs that are supposed to protect people.
Yeah, guilty as charged. Yeah, and being in a small town, everybody knew everybody. So I'm sure they knew who, let's say, borrowed the signs.
There you go. And the coolest thing is if you could get a sign that had the light on it that flickered back and forth, and that's also very much a safety thing.
Oh yeah, I got
You
one better for you.
go ahead.
In my town, and don't ask me why. I mean, there's all kinds of different rumors or why, but there are
Yeah.
speed limit signs set up, but speed limit 29 all through the town. Not 30, not 25, but 29. And they say the reason is because on different state roads, if the speed limit is below 30
Hmm.
and somebody gets a fine for it, whatever, the money stays in the community. I don't know for certain whether that's true or not, but we had speed limit 29 signs, and we still do, all over
Okay.
the place. So you can imagine the people who like to collect signs. There's a whole collection of these speed limit 29 signs out in different people's garages and houses and
Oh
dorm
yeah,
rooms and high school, college dorm rooms and stuff like that. I don't know how they kept up with them, but they were gone all the time.
sure.
Not
Okay,
that
so
I know from experience, because I was a nice little Catholic boy. I didn't do stuff
there you
like
go. You didn't do anything wrong, and neither
that. No,
did
of
I,
course
right?
not. No, of course not.
So,
Weird.
so Andrew, so like back in the day, I mean, you went to high school literally the same time period I did.
Yes.
80s music was such a big deal because I believe you graduated in 85. I graduated
Right.
in 85.
Yep.
So when you think back to like MTV and that time period, anything particular to the 80s that come to mind or any funny story that happened during the 80s that might have something to do with music?
No, you see, not really, because I wasn't a
No?
big concert goer.
Okay.
Uh,
That's fine.
outside, this is my very first concert, early 80s with mom and dad, Kenny Rogers. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
Back when,
Yeah. Kenny Rogers, the outlaw. I like it.
yeah. And then because I wasn't a big concert goer. And the funny
Yeah.
reason was, one, because I was too cheap, first of all, to buy tickets. But
Right.
we had a local radio station, and I don't know how they got away with it, but the closest bigger city to where I live is a city called Terre Haute, Indiana. It's where Indiana State
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Okay. And we pick up all the radio stations from there, but there's a local radio station at the time. Anytime there was a concert in Terre Haute or in Indiana State, they
Sure.
would broadcast it on air.
Okay.
I'm sure it was illegal because they never advertised it. They never did anything. All of a sudden on a Saturday night, there's a concert. You tune in like, oh, wow, they're broadcasting this concert. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So did you tape it? Did you like hit your tape and tape it?
No, I was not that sophisticated. I didn't.
Okay. I didn't know.
No. And I didn't know half the bands. I mean, I'm sure there were some big bands over there. I just didn't know them at the time. And my only other concert, well, the only other big concert was seeing Cheap Trick.
Oh, awesome.
And I had a buddy who went to Purdue University, and we went to see Cheap Trick. This is during the Dream Police tour. And it was
cool.
One of my favorite albums of all time, even though I heard this the other day, a true Cheap Trick fan would disown that album. I think it's one of the greatest albums. It's one of my favorite albums. But anyway, so my buddy and I are up there in the stands, and people are just going nuts when Cheap Trick came out. First, the drummer comes out, started doing a drum solo. Then one of the guitarists, another guitarist, and a lead singer comes out. And all of a sudden, they strum the guitar, and these floodlights just blind everybody in the audience. Everybody stands up and just cheering and roaring like they do at concerts, except the guy right in front of us.
Okay.
Didn't move a muscle. I mean, we thought he was dead. I mean, literally, he was not moved throughout the concert until the very last song. He stood up and started yelling, yeah, and he started cussing and everything else. And I finally get to hear my effing song, blah, blah, blah. Sorry if I said the wrong word there. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. No, that's
yeah, he started yelling. We just couldn't believe, like, is he dead? I mean, he didn't move the entire concert. It's a good hour and a half or 2 hours. The very last song, he gets up and starts screaming his head off. Like it was the best thing ever.
Oh, that's all. Yeah. So, but was he a friend of yours or just in front of you at the concert?
In front of us. Have no idea who he was. No idea.
Okay. All right.
Cheap Trick, man.
That's legit.
Yeah.
I'm a big Cheap Trick fan.
Love that album. Absolutely love that album.
So I got a story that kind of parlays off your story, and it did happen in a concert. So we went, a bunch of us, to go see Ted Nugent.
Okay.
In Kansas City, which I grew up an hour outside of Kansas City in a town called St. Joseph, Missouri. So maybe similar to you with Terre Haute, Indiana. So we're at this concert, and my buddy was working a lot. It was during the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
He's a professional cook at a restaurant, and then he went on to go to college or whatever, like all of us did. But at that point, during his summers, he was working as a professional cook and working until 2 a.m.
Okay.
And we take him to the Ted Nugent concert, and within 10 minutes of the concert starting, he was asleep. He slept through the whole Ted Nugent concert. And folks, Uncle Ted is loud.
Oh yeah. The Motor City Madman. How in the world do you sleep through that? Absolutely.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a good buddy of mine. And then later on, as we got back to town or whatever, we had to stop at Denny's to eat. Like, you got to stop at Denny's to eat. And he was awake for that. But literally the whole Ted Nugent concert, he was out cold. And it wasn't from drinking. He didn't stay awake long enough to get drunk, unfortunately. But
wow.
But speaking of drinking, since I went right into that, Can you think of a funny story that happened to you in the 80s that revolves around drinking?
Well, it's different from my household because my parents both came from Italy, and my sister and I we grew up with a bottle of wine on the table. So for us, drinking was no big deal,
right?
Because my dad said, if you want to drink here at the house, So
right.
In high school, I wasn't a big drinker outside. I didn't sneak it around or anything of that sort. So unfortunately, I don't have any drunk stories from
that's fine.
From high school. I mean, college, of course, college, passage. You have to get drunk in college.
Yeah. Any stories about girls that got a little too intoxicated that you had to help and get back to their dorm or sorority house?
Well, my junior and senior year, I was actually I worked on the security system, a security team at the school.
Yes. Okay.
And usually in the weekend, weekdays, like from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, we had to stay. They had to have one security person at each one of the girls' dorms. We had 2 girls' dorms in our college. Okay. So my assignment usually was at one of the 2 girls' dorms. No guy was allowed in the girls' dorms, of course.
That's understandable
because it's supposed to be, studying, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, being a small college, less than 1,000 people in the college. So by the time you're a junior and senior, most of the other juniors and seniors at the college.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a small college, everybody's there. So I knew, as it did everybody else, who was dating who or who was going after who, and so on and so forth. So if the girls wanted to sneak their boyfriend into the room, they'd have all their other friends come to what they call the lounge, which was one floor or one room in each dorm room floor.
Right.
That could see down the hallway. So they bring all their other girlfriends into whoever's working security, and not just me, but whoever's working security. So working security, and they would distract them by talking to them and making their back turn so they wouldn't look down the hall, so their other girlfriends could sneak their boyfriends in the room.
Okay.
And a few hours later, the security guard wouldn't be distracted, and all of a sudden you see a guy come out of the girl's room, comes by and he waves at me. I'm just looking at him. He goes, "Hi, Andrew." And I said, for instance, "Hi, Bob." "Hi, Jim. Did you have a good time?" Blah, blah, blah. One of those kind of things. So,
right.
Because technically I wasn't supposed to let him in, but if I didn't see him, they would get in anyway.
There you go.
It's one of those kind of things that just play the game.
Yeah.
And at our school, I thought this was hysterical at the time. There was a white security truck that patrolled around the school. It was a beautiful campus. No one wasn't very big, beautiful campus. And every one of the security guards, like myself, at each one of the different checkpoints had a walkie-talkie. Nowadays, I don't even know if they still have walkie-talkies or not, but we had walkie-talkies. Right. So we would have to check in like every half hour, every hour, something of that sort.
Sure.
So pretty soon we started joking with each other. I said, "Yeah, everything's fine here, except we have this suspicious white van driving around in front of us every hour or something like that." And so the other security guards started catching on the joke and started saying the same thing. "Hey, we've been seeing the same white truck."
Okay.
Pretty soon, and we didn't know this at the time, the town of Rensselaer had their city police monitoring our walkie-talkie signals. And they started bringing patrol cars over to find out who's circling around the girls' dorms and all these white vans trying to pick somebody up. And so we got in a little bit of a trouble for saying that. That makes sense what I'm saying here.
Oh, so like
they were in these cops came out to find this suspicious white van, who was the security van for the school. So even though we were saying that there's a suspicious white van going around.
Interesting. It's like he said. So you're sitting there, and you guys are kind of up to no good, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they're monitoring your walkie-talkies. They send over surveillance, and then you call them and say, "Hey, there's some suspicious surveillance going on."
We didn't call the police.
No,
we just have to call into our headquarters in the college.
Oh, okay.
Every half hour we have to check in just to say everything's okay. And basically, if you ask me, it was to make sure that the security guards were still awake, because on weekends you had to stay up there till 2 a.m. You had to make sure they're still awake. So we had to check in. And so after a while, that's when we started. When we call our base unit.
Yes.
That's when we called and said, "Hey, we got this suspicious white van going around," which it wasn't a white van. It was a white truck, but we called it a white van.
That's funny. The cops telling to the cops. I mean, because like you were security, you're calling into your security.
Right. And in-town cops, the in-town policemen are monitoring just in case something happens, of course.
Right.
They send out their police officers to the campus.
That's hilarious. So, okay, so you're in college. Any blind dates when you're in college or even high school? That's always a good subject. Did you have any blind dates in high school?
No, because my high school was so small. I mean, my graduating class was 134, if I recall, 134, 144.
Okay.
So
you're telling me every girl you dated could see properly? Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much. Yeah. Everybody knew everybody. So if you can whisper to somebody that you like, like, "Hey, I like Lisa over there," and by the end of the day, everyone knew that I was attracted to Lisa. One of those kind of things.
Oh yeah.
Small school, everybody knew everybody. So it wasn't any blind dates, so to speak. And I was, like I said, I was a nerd back in high school. I wasn't sophisticated enough to go to a nearby city to try to hit on other girls, because I didn't know how, and
right.
And me being a nerd, and those kind of things, I had no clue how to do it. As a scrawny little runt, and
no worries.
I thought I was a big guy. I was on the cross country team, baseball team. I was in the band. Man, was I, the big man on campus back then.
Right, sure.
So no, as far as blind dates go, no. But
no blind dates. That's okay.
When I was in college, this is a good one. I started lifting weights my junior year in college.
Okay.
And when I first picked up a weight, I couldn't get the bar off my chest. That's how scrawny I was back even in college. And but then I started pumping the iron, and I started developing an upper body and muscles, and I had another buddy who we started hanging out to each other at a local gym. It was basically it was a dive gym. It's just a little space somebody rented with a bunch of equipment in there. We all paid $10 a month and went in there. Okay. So this other kid and I, who graduated with me, went to high school with me, we started hanging out. Now in high school, we were on, I guess you call it, like opposite ends of the track, or opposite sides of the track. I wouldn't talk to him. He wouldn't talk to me. We knew each other. I mean, he was the big bully kid, if you will, one of those kind. And I was, like I said, a little nerd kid.
Yep.
We started hanging out at the gym. We started lifting together, and like I said, my body started developing, and we started hanging out and going to different clubs. At the time, there was a couple of clubs in Eastern Illinois University, which was about 45 minutes away.
Okay.
Where they had, it was a 19 and older club. So you had to be 21 to drink, but if you go in when you were 19 years old, they put a mark on your wrist, which you just went to the restroom and wiped it off. So drink. So we were at this club, and he says, "Okay, tonight we're going to try something different." I said, "All right, what?" He says, "You can speak Italian, right?" I said, "Yeah, I can get by with it." Yeah. He says, "All right, pretend you speak Italian. I met 2 girls last week when I was here without you, and I told them I had an Italian friend, and I'm going to bring them."
I like it.
Great. So I said, and that's all he told me. I had no idea what was going on. He was the guy that he could be sitting there and girls would come up to him. We all had friends like that, the real good looking guy that every girl wanted to date. And that was him. That was my buddy Scott. I was just the opposite. No girl ever walked up to me and wanted to date me. So I just, by associating with Scott, is when girls were attracted to me, because I was the sidekick, so to speak, like Batman and Robin.
Hey, nothing wrong with having a wingman.
So he brings these 2 girls over, and start talking. He introduced me as being an Italian exchange student, and I don't speak any English. And so I'm thinking right away, well, how am I going to do this? I don't speak any English, but I can understand everything they're saying. So I'm trying to figure this out as we're going. Well, he starts making fun of me all night, and they keep getting mad at him. And I got to just sit there and smile and laugh with them because I'm supposed to not know what he's talking about. As we're going through the night. And as we're doing this,
That's funny.
Another buddy of ours walks in, unbeknownst to us that he's going to be there. And my buddy Scott looks at me, and I look at him. He just gives me this look, and he looks back down because we're like on the upper floor of this 2-story place where you can see the dance floor. And we see this other kid walking in, and he looks at me, gives me this look like, oh, look who just walked in. Because he always, when we all went there, all the guys, we all met at the same place. When we get to the place, we find each other and go have a drink or whatever with him. So I excuse myself. I even forgot how I do it. Like I said, I have to go to the restroom. I immediately go downstairs and see my other buddy walking up. He gives me the high sign and says, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Don't ask questions. I don't speak English. I'm Italian. I'm an exchange student." Said, "That's all you need to know." I said, "Scott's upstairs. I'll be there in a few minutes." I get back up there, and now both of those two are making fun of me because I'm supposed to not understand what they're saying. And these two girls are getting mad at another two friends. And
Sure.
I don't even know what to do at this point. So later on, they kept getting mad at him, but Scott, once again, was a good-looking one. So they both wanted to go home with Scott. Nothing with me, even though I'm being the one being made fun of. They kept getting mad at him and, playful mad. Well, cut it out. He can understand you. That's not nice, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to say some broken Italian that I know the best, and they have no clue what's going on. The girls.
That's funny.
As soon as I said, I can't deal with this anymore. And pretty soon the girl says, I even forgot what was said, but it was a perfect opportunity for me to jump in and say, "Ladies, girls, I speak perfectly English. I've never been to Italy," and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, and no. Did you get slapped?
They're looking at me, they're looking at Scott, and one of them ended up going home with Scott, of course. But
okay. But were they angry, Andrew? Were they angry?
No, that was the funny part. They weren't angry.
Okay.
I think they were shocked at first, but they never did get angry. And I wouldn't say we became good friends, but a few times we all met together and hung out at places and things of that sort. But it was never I'm going to slap the zebras out of you because you lied to us. And that's what I thought was going to happen, but it didn't. But we hadn't gone for 2 or 3 hours that night, and it was bad for me because I couldn't speak.
Right.
So.
That's funny. Okay, so you got to give my listeners an idea. So you obviously know how to speak some Italian. Give us like maybe 3 sentences in Italian.
Oh my word. This anybody that speaks a foreign language, when you put them on the spot like that, you say, "Well, what do you say? What would you like me to say?" And I understand the Italian.
Tell me that you love your mother and that you have to go to the Bacazza.
The Bacazza.
Isn't that what you call a toilet in Italian?
I have never heard of a Bacazza.
Oh, really? I might have it wrong.
No, I mean, in Italy, there's all kinds of different dialects, and literally every province you go to, it's a different dialect, and they have different words for somebody totally different. For instance, a chair in a regular Italian is called a sedia. In my dialect, my mom and dad's dialect, is called a carrega. Go figure. They don't even sound alike.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I could go to Italy and I can get by, and we grew up knowing the dialect. I can understand it more than I can speak. I can speak broken English, but if I go to Italy, I can get by. Now, saying something like I said, mi piace bere un poco di acqua ogni mattina con il caffè, posso bere un poco di grappa, un poco di birra. Mi piace mangiare con mia mamma and papa. It's like that, So that's a little bit of Italian right there. Now you got me all nervous. I'm saying it right. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Now you got me all nervous.
You're fine. You're fine. I put you on the spot. I like to do that.
Oh, thank you. I like
appreciate it. In my show. So, okay. So let's think this through. So I want to see if there's a good story, maybe in college when you were out and about with your friends, where like one of your friends was just like completely comatose and you guys had to take him to safety or take her to safety. You know, maybe they passed out somewhere or something. Do you have any stories like that?
I'm trying to think if I do. One of my buddies tells me that he went to my college and visited me. I don't remember this at all, but he says that we were drinking, partying so much one night, and we had people coming in and out of my dorm room because at my college, dorm rooms we didn't have any fraternities. Everybody had their own dorm, almost like each floor of the dorm was its own little fraternity. So we had people coming in and out. My roommate and I had people coming into our dorm room, drinking, not drinking, what have you. And I guess I was just drinking more and more and getting hammered and hammered and hammered. I don't remember this, but as we were walking up the stairs, one of my buddies says that he was basically helping me up the stairs. Somebody at the top of the stairs tripped and their beer went flying in my direction, but nothing got on me. He says, I don't know how.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he says the whole beer went spilled right on top of you, but you didn't get wet. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know. It's not really funny, but it's just like, wow.
No, it's funny. You're like the modern day Flash.
I guess, yeah. To this day, he'll say nothing happened. Okay.
That is funny. Wow, you move at the speed of light.
I
Good
guess. Yeah. So yeah.
Or the speed of beer.
Speed of beer. I wasn't a big drinker. I'd go out and drink, but one of the few times I got drunk was that time. And a couple of my buddies, this is a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
My friends with my buddy Scott that I talked about before. He had a brother that was about a year older than him, and so this was right when I turned 21. Those guys were 121, 122. So I was just in college still, 21. I came home for the weekend. We went out drinking. I was driving, so I was the designated driver, so I wasn't drinking too much. Well, these guys were drinking before we even got started. So we get to the bars and stuff. They're drinking more and more and more. We get back into my car. Then the two brothers, of course, are going to argue about everything.
Yeah, sure.
And again, the Scott was the chick magnet, and his brother was just as good as he was, and they didn't have to do anything with the ladies. Okay, so they were also arguing about who was going to be with who. One of these other girls that would come up to our tables all the time. I said, enough of this. I'm sick of playing this game. You guys are both drunk. I'm responsible for you. You're not going to go home with either one of these two tonight. I know that. So we're getting in our car and we're starting to go home.
Right.
Pretty soon, one of the guy in the back seat, because at the time I had a two-seater car, a two-door car with 2 seats in the front, 2 seats in the back, of course.
Sure.
The guy in the back says, I'm going to get sick. I said, not in my car, you're not. I slam on the brakes, opens the door. He sticks his head out, starts getting sick as the car is still rolling, coming to a stop. Well, his brother starts getting sick. So they're both getting sick. Then they start arguing about who's getting sick the most. I'm like, brothers, if that makes sense. One guy's leaning his head out the back seat with the open door.
They were arguing over who was vomiting the most?
Yes.
It was, well, okay, so was the competition to vomit more or vomit less?
There were two brothers. They were just arguing. So I vomited more than you did. No, you didn't. I vomited more.
Ah! I love it.
It's just brothers. They argue about everything.
I love it. I love it. That is true. That's a good story. Arguing about who's vomiting the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I grew up, if you vomited, that was seen as being a bad deal. Like we didn't want to party with people that were going to vomit because that gets messy and
oh yeah,
easy to get busted if your parents think that you just cleaned your car out because somebody vomited in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just thought of another story with me and Scott again.
Awesome.
Happened to pick up. I don't want to say pick up is not the right word. Two girls basically wanted to take Scott home. And since there was 2 of them and 2 of us, of course, it was going to be 2 and 2, this kind of thing. So we go back to their apartment.
Right.
I'm thinking, finally, I get to be involved with this kind of stuff. Finally. All right. I mean, not that I was not dating or anything. Of course,
right.
This was just a whole different story where I'm finally the one being picked up at the bar by the girls. So we go back to their apartment. We're sitting there in the kitchen before everything gets started, like it should when 20, 21-year-old boys and girls get together and
right.
Well, Well, one
Sure.
girl opened the refrigerator, pulls out a couple of beers, and closes the refrigerator. And about 30 seconds later, I smell this awful rank. I don't even know what the heck it was. I look at Scott. He's looking at me. Well, I thought he basically crapped his pants. That's how bad it was.
Oh my God.
I'm looking at him. He's looking at me like, what's going on? We're not saying anything because the girls are still in there.
Right.
They're not indicated at all. They smell something.
Okay.
Pretty soon, we're drinking a beer. All right, and for those listening, guys who are again 20, 21 years old, it doesn't matter to us what anything smells like. We got the mission. We got tunnel vision. We want one thing at that point.
Right.
So pretty soon, the girls open the refrigerator for another beer, and here's this rank smell again. I look at Scott. He's looking at me like we think each other is basically a crap in each other's pants. Pretty soon, when the girl says, "What was that?" and both Scott and our eyes just get really big, like, what's going to? This is not going to happen because of you. We're thinking to each other that somebody else did something. And one girl looks at theirs, she goes, "I don't know, what is that?" They opened the refrigerator and they had spoiled food everywhere in the refrigerator, and this awful smell
Okay.
from the refrigerator. And at that point,
Oh,
the whole mood for the girls was done. I mean,
mystery solved, huh?
we couldn't do anything if our life depended on it because these girls were just so embarrassed about what was going on in their refrigerator in their apartment. They didn't want anybody else being in there, and they hurried up and asked us to leave at that point. We're like, "No,
Oh,
it's not that
yeah.
bother us. We can stay. We can stay." No, they were just so embarrassed at that point.
Oh
It
man.
reeked like you wouldn't believe. Oh my God. And just
That's
the look I
wild.
gave to Scott, and he looked at me at the same time. We're like, "Well, why are you doing this now? Don't do it now." Because we saw
That's
each other crap in
funny.
our pants. Once again, excuse the language. I'm trying to keep this.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
as
that's fun. I mean, that really is good storytelling because it lets the listeners know that like how rank that food
Oh,
was.
it was. I've never smelled anything like it before, and how these girls didn't know it before is beyond me. It was. Ugh.
Well, any women listening to the show, please clean out your refrigerators of
Please do
spoiled
so. That's
food
right.
because it can affect your sex life and others.
Exactly. And guys do the same thing. The last thing
Yes.
you want is if you have a girl over your place, you don't want any kind of foul smell anywhere. No.
Cleanliness is next to godliness, and you're hearing it from two born and bred Catholic boys.
That's right.
Keep
Absolutely.
that refrigerator spotless and keep enough room in there for a case of beer.
That's right. That's right. Right. Yeah. You say Catholic boys. I say I'm Catholic by, I guess, association. I mean, I go
Right?
to church on Sundays, and I can stand up and sit down and eat that little wafer with the best of them. But when it comes to knowing Catholic stuff, nah.
That's okay.
No. Oh no. But
That's okay.
for Lent every year,
Oh, good story. Tell us about Lent.
I give up the same thing every year for Lent. It used to
Okay.
be because I used to be a Mountain Dew-aholic. Love Mountain Dew.
Okay.
I still claim to be a Mountain Dew-aholic, just don't drink nearly like I used to.
Right.
There are all kinds of Mountain Dew. So for Lent every year, I would give up Mountain Dew. Up
Okay.
in high school and started in college as well. So then I said, well, I give up Mountain Dew, but I'm drinking other forms of soda pop. Now, I call it soda pop because some people call it soda, some people call it pop. I say soda pop, it covers the whole gamut.
Yeah, okay.
So I started giving up just not Mountain Dew, but all forms of soda pop.
Right.
So then I was drinking tea and coffee and so on and so forth. So I said, I got to take this a step further. I said, I'm going to give up all forms of beverages except water and alcohol. And people say, well, why not alcohol? I said, because first of all, this is Lent and this is the Catholic religion. If I give up alcohol being a Catholic person, they'd kick me out of the church.
Right. That's
Catholics
true.
are alcoholics. We drink wine during church for crying out loud. Yeah,
There you go. No,
during being a Catholic.
there you go. No grape juice here.
Mm-mm.
That's good. That's funny. Yeah, I could parlay a little bit off that story. So where I grew up, there's a neighborhood bar.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hit 21 or even prior to 21, kids don't try this at home. You go to this neighborhood bar and it's like a high school reunion. Like all your friends are there. People from that graduated 4 years ahead of you are there. People that just graduated are there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to be heading to Missouri, where I'm from, to this bar probably next Thursday. But the reason why it's worth mentioning is because it gets filled with all these people that I know. And this is on a Saturday night, Andrew. And I kid you not, at 9 o'clock mass that Sunday, after mass is over, all the people that were in the bar with me that I know are in the back of the church chatting up everything that we did last night at the bar.
Oh yeah. That's a rite of passage. You got to do that, of course. That the few times I've been to Italy, we went as a family when I was younger.
Okay.
Excuse me. And we went to because mom and dad came basically, they were childhood sweethearts. They met when mom was 14, dad was 16, and became in love. Long love
so
stories
cool.
that when people go, oh, that's such a sweet story. One of those kind of things. But anyway, so when we went back, dad used to be an altar boy at his church, which was funny. If you knew my dad, how that happened is beyond me. But he liked to go back to church on Sundays, even though here in the States, he never went to church. He said that, he had to watch the house in case somebody robbed the house. So he had to stay home, which being in my town, no, people don't even lock the doors in my town. But anyway, so we go to church, and after church, they would have like a procession leading out the church and walking through the town. It was a real small little town.
Right.
All of the guys my dad's age would be at the back of the procession, and they would stop at the bar, have a drink. And if the procession was going back through, they'd go into the procession again, stop at another little bar. One of those kind of things. This is on a Sunday in the morning. They stop and start drinking. All the guys his age, like all the ones he went to school with, like you said, they all meet at the bar. That's what they did. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if that was an annual, a weekly thing, or just because my dad was in town. He grew up with all these guys. So
that's cool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Leave it to the Europeans. That's
right.
Really cool.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a good story. So we've talked a lot about like stuff that happened to us in the 80s. Thinking back to the 80s, anything like in particular that you remember that happened to you in the 80s, whenever in the 80s, that comes to mind that was kind of funny?
Well, it started in the 80s and progressed throughout the next 20 years or so.
Sure.
Okay. So my sister and I grew up in this little small town.
Right.
Okay. She's a couple years older than I am, even though if you ask her now, she's my younger sister. You know how that goes. Yeah. Because she stopped counting her birthdays. So now she's my younger sister. So I went off to college, came back after college, and then about a couple years later, I moved away to Indianapolis, took a job over there. Then I lived in Indianapolis all throughout the 90s. And through corporate jobs, I moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and different places in Florida, and so on and so forth. Well, through family situations, I moved back to Clinton 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I was gone for a good 25 years, which started in the 80s, maybe 30 years.
Right.
I started going places with my sister here in town, and older people especially, they asked my sister, she says, well, this isn't your husband. We went to your wedding. This isn't your husband. My sister said, well, you're right. This is my brother. They said, you got a brother? We didn't know you had a brother. It's why I used to get mad at mom and dad all the time. I said, what, you guys just disown me? How can so many people not know I exist in a town that I grew up in? How is that possible?
That's funny.
Yeah. Even to this day, people will say, I don't know who you are.
Right.
I tell them who my dad was. I didn't know he had a son. Like, are you kidding? Really? Even my parents don't tell anybody? Okay. Oh, geez. So, yeah, it's just an ongoing thing now.
You know what, Andrew? I think this is a great time to transition from, the stories we're telling Schools Out 80s. And this is the time of the show where we promote what we do.
Okay.
And I'm just going to be quiet because I know you're really good at promoting what you do. And I'm just going to let you talk to everybody at Schools Out 80s and tell them, exactly what you do and how you help people.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I run a company called Top Fitness Strategies, and it's an internet-based company. And I do podcasts, I do live streams, and so on and so forth. But what sets my form of fitness away from everybody else's, or apart from everybody else's, is I work with the folks usually over 50 years old who want to look better, feel better, gain some confidence. I tell people, if you're wanting to show off your body on stage, I'm probably not the guy, because I know there's too many people out there at our age who are unhealthy that need a little kick in the rear, so to speak, to get healthier, to do something that's going to get them healthier. And that's where I come into play. I'm a certified personal trainer, do all that training stuff, do a lot of my stuff online. And I have two things. Well, the main thing for folks, I have what's called a booty call. And yes, it's not mean or disgusting or anything else. This is just an interview I did with a good friend of mine, a personal trainer who's a female.
Sure.
And she wanted to promote how women can enhance their backside, so to speak. So we called it the booty call. So she talked all about the booty. And so this was back
Shake that booty.
Exactly. This was in the time where podcasting wasn't really a thing, and the both audio equipment that we had was horrendous. So we redid the call several years later, called it the Booty Call 2.0, where she talked about the rear, the butts, and I talked about the guts, how the guys can get rid of the butts. We call it Booty Call 2.0, butts and guts.
I like it.
This is an interview I give out to anybody who likes to go to the website and check it out. Go to topfitnessstrategies.com and click on the booty call, and it's yours for the taking. So there you go. You can listen to it. It's MP3 audio. So it was a podcast before podcasts were podcasts.
Very cool. And that's the best way to reach them, to reach you, is to go to topfitnessstrategies.com. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Also, I have social media is the same. YouTube is the same, Top Fitness Strategies. Look it up. You'll find it. You can also find Andrew Poletto. It's the same way. So yeah, awesome. I can talk all day about that, but I don't want to.
No, all good. Well, so Andrew, I'll go ahead and promote what I do.
I am John the Sales Warrior Sansoni. I've been professionally selling successfully for 34 years. What can I teach you? How to prospect, present, follow up, and most importantly, how to close. I have a 3-day masterclass that includes inspiration, motivation, and the mental tools to succeed in business and sales. My course includes worksheets, audio, video, and can be taken in 30 action blocks. Also included, how to have greater confidence. My course should be $400. If you get it today, $99, and included my book for free. Once purchased, you'll get free monthly inspiration from me. Just go to saleswarriorinspire.com and order yours today. That's it. Back to the show.
Yeah. Oh, Andrew, I'm passionate about it. So, hope to build more sales warriors out there. Well, yeah, Andrew, this has been a great show. You did wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
I hope it wasn't too boring for some folks out there. Gee whiz, it was just me and antics growing up. So
no, it's awesome, man. Antics growing up in the 80s is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we made some people laugh.
Love the hair bands. Absolutely. There we go.
Excellent. Well, okay, who's your favorite hair band?
I got to stick with Poison. I remember listening. I love
really them. Okay.
Yeah, them, of course. Cheap Trick. I love. Cheap Trick. Yep.
So we met Brett Michaels backstage in St. Louis.
Really?
And we met Rikki Rocket in a pretty small bar here in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And he was complaining about the food because he didn't want to eat bar food.
Here in a bar, don't want to eat bar food. Okay, go figure.
Well, he's a California guy now, so
okay.
So yeah, he just didn't want to eat bar food, but he was cool. I mean, he actually sat down with us and told us jokes and everything, and so it was pretty cool to meet him. Well, this is it. So this is where we wrap the show for this episode, and so Andrew, coming to us all the way from Clinton, Indiana, a sports medicine guru, helping people lose weight and look better and have confidence. Say goodbye to everybody that's out. School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time.
Goodbye, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming to School's Out 80s. There you go.
Awesome. And from John Sales Warrior here in Dallas, cheers, everybody.